happy that the pupils from our community is coming forward and taking the part in the public services, and that's a great service we have supposed to do. We have supposed to involve in this system, because without involving in this system, we are not able to change anything. We are not able to really introduce ourselves as a community to the other pupils, because it's very important. That's why I asked another very smart lady. I know her from a long time, and she is doing a wonderful job in the education system. She was the chairperson for the PDSC Parent Involvement Committee. She is also the part of the PIC Parent Involvement Committee councils, and she is doing a lot of good job. I know that. And I want to meet you, introduce you, Romana Siddiqui. Romana Siddiqui, welcome to the Toronto 360 TV.
Assalamu alaikum, Arafai. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
So, Romana, I know that you are involved because you have 3 kids, mashallah, and they all go through the process of the education in our system, right?
Yes.
And I know that you are personally very much involved in your kids' education, and then the challenges which are coming through and goes through, you also see with your eyes. That's why you're involved in this education committee and the councils and everything, and later on, and now you decided yourself that this is a time I have to jump and I have to run for the trustee. That's the only reason? There are other reasons too.
You know, it's funny because as a parent, you want the best for your children. And the involvement of parents in the education system is really one of the key indicators and factors for their success. So as a parent, as you mentioned, I have 3 children. And from when they have been little, I would first be involved in volunteering in the classroom, in supporting with homework. And in fact, I would do small things like explaining about our customs and holidays when other customs and holidays were being celebrated. Dhire dhire se, slowly, my involvement, it became deeper and more involved. I started attending school council meetings. I eventually became chair of the local school council. I was finding still this is not, it's helping, but it's still not actually changing the experience that children are having in the school system. I was a product of the school system here too. And even with myself being born here and growing up, I still had challenges navigating it. I still had challenges advocating for my children's needs when, they needed to have an assessment done or they needed additional supports. And so slowly increasing my involvement, I did eventually become involved with the Parent Involvement Committee, which is an advisory committee to the Director of Education.
Okay.
And this is mandated in the Education Act. Every single school board has one.
I myself was in the Ward 5, mashallah, alhamdulillah, and I know that you're doing a great job in the schools. So tell me that what are the something that you saw yourself in the system and you think that as a trustee, you want to change that?
Okay. So I think one of the important things is that parents need to be empowered and understand how to use their voice to advocate for their children. The trustee is the only position that's an elected position, and their responsibility is to amplify the voices of the students and the families for what their needs are. Now, they help to set the policies of the school board. They are responsible for passing the budget, but they're also very much responsible for being a conduit of the concerns of their constituents. They work hand in hand with each other. There's 12 trustees, but in my experience, I was finding that you really have to have impactful change and influence. You need all the stakeholders working together. In Peel, we've had a very dysfunctional board. The Minister of Education removed the Director of Education.
Wow.
And he suspended the powers of the sitting trustees because of the dysfunctionality of this board, because of the level of racism, because of the level of harm that was being felt by the community. It was reaching an unacceptable level. In my role as chair for the Parent Involvement Committee for the past 3 years, we have been trying to focus on workshops and seminars and support for families, particularly Black, Indigenous, racialized families. I myself have been part of developing the anti-racism policy, and as well, I've been part of the steering committee for anti-Islamophobia strategy. That's all still being rolled out. There's a lot of work to be done, and we need all the different partners involved. But if we re-elect the same trustees that were part of creating this problem, we're not going to be solving it. We need people that are parents of current children, not grandparents. Some of these trustees have been sitting there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they have contributed to that systemic discrimination. During COVID, students suffered a lot, families suffered a lot.
Mental health, especially mental health.
Mental health, there's so much food insecurity now. There's a lot of needs that have to be addressed. So I've also been doing work outside of the Parent Involvement Committee in the larger community. And some of that work has been advocating for increased safety, health and safety measures within schools. Now that's not specifically to do with Mississauga with Peel District School Board. That is across the province. Having HEPA filters, having smaller class sizes, having better distancing, et cetera. And now since we've sort of been trying to return to a bit of a sense of more normal, having additional supports for that academic learning loss and for increased supports for the mental health. A lot of families, a lot of students have really been dealing with a lot the past 2 years.
So one of the issue on the schooling system, which is the challenging actually, because if you see the technology, the involvement of technology from last 10 years and 15 years, enormously increases, right, everywhere. And children are more used to work on their computer, on their gadgets, on everything, right? Instead of books and all those things are side. So how the system, did you see that the system is aligning with those changes which is taking place in the society, and the children are used to love to do those things? Are the schools and the children are aligned?
So technology is a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, just as with every other sort of resource we have, it's not an equitable rollout. So for example, during COVID again, we had numerous shifts to virtual online learning. There were children who were lost in the sense of they didn't have a device, an iPad or a phone. They didn't have access to consistent internet. In some cases, 4, 5, 6 family members in a family might be needing to log on, whether it was for work or for school. And there were a lot of stories that I had heard about families having to sit outside of like a McDonald's or a Tim Hortons for their kids to be able to submit when they could even, but for them to be able to submit online their assignments and things. And a lot of kids, I know even in our family, we didn't have the issue about not having a device for the children, but my youngest son, he hated online learning. Video gaming, उसका तो फटाफट फौरन वो होता है.
वो तो फौरन चाहिए.
जी. But the engagement level in terms of the learning wasn't there. So there is a particular way to engage. So like technology can be used. There's a lot of collaborative work on Google Classroom, etc. But it has to be managed properly. And we still need to be having a focus on students, that personal touch, that personal education touch too.
So you are the co-founder of the two important bodies I saw in your resume, in your flyer as well, that the Muslim Parent of Peel as well as #Safe Peel. So what are those?
Yes. So the Muslim Parents of Peel, MPOP, this is something we had started a couple of years back before COVID. There were actually, this was even prior to the really tragic, unfortunate situation that had happened in London with the family.
London family.
Yes. It was so devastating. So this group, we had started it before that. This was before COVID, before the supervisor was put in place in Peel. We had had this racism review in February 2020. And one of the things that came out of that was that Muslim families in particular were dealing with a lot of challenges. So we thought we needed to found this organization so we could start advocating for the needs of Muslim students. We make up a minimum of 25% of the student population. And if you consider that not all Muslim kids are actually attending public school, we make up more than 25% of the community. So our needs and our voices must be reflected. And so that was a very important step. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been part of the Anti-Islamophobia Strategy Committee at the board. Then Save Peel was specifically, that had started because of concerns in Peel region during COVID. we had highest community transmission rates of COVID and some of the lowest initially rates of vaccinations. And we were advocating for prioritized vaccinations, particularly in Brampton, right? We were the distribution center for the rest of the province, for the rest of the country. And yet the workers were in very precarious positions, and they were not being vaccinated properly. There were not proper sick days being offered. So there was a lot of pain and suffering that was happening. And it just highlights again.
So those things, how you see in the policies, these are some, definitely, these things are well defined in the policy already. I'm thinking that, but they are maybe on the implementation side, there are the weaknesses there.
Well, so it's part of the advocacy of the community that brings it to attention of holding the leaders accountable. So they were actually, Peel was being neglected. There were several journalists that were writing reports about this, and as a result of some of that community pushback, they did prioritize vaccination for Peel. But that didn't happen without the public outcry and without the highlighting of the community's infection rates being really quite substantially higher. They were overrepresented in terms of what the population generally should be. We were having much higher infection rates and much lower vaccination rates. And there were reasons for that, systemic reasons. And so policy is only going to be as good as what the community is sort of supporting and demanding from our elected leaders.
So I know that you're very well knowledgeable trustee, mashallah, and I take a lot of interviews, but I really appreciate that you come and you give a very different view how the trustee can work, and I really wish you best of luck actually. That I hope that you will be elected in the Ward 5 and become the trustee of the Peel District School Board. So what's the last message you want to give to the community of Ward 5 for 24th of October?
Please vote for me so that I can represent your voice, because our schools are the very heart of our community.
Thank you, Romana, and I really wish you best of luck once again, and thank you to giving the time to Toronto 360 TV and Community Talk.
Thank you so much, Arif bhai. Jazakallah khair.
So नाज़रीन, ये थी रोमाना सिद्दीकी बड़े ज़बरदस्त वॉइस हैं. I know her from long time, and she is very energetic and very strong voice of the parent, and she was in the parent councils in the schools as well, and she always raising her voice, and she know the system very well, and that's why it is our responsibility that we should come out on 24th of October, especially the Ward 5 people. They have to come out. They have to give the vote to the right candidate, because the right candidate is there. When you in your community you have the right person come forward, then you have to do your job. She did already her job. She did a lot of volunteer work. She raised the voices, but now is our job that somebody come forward, and then we have to come out from our beds early in the morning, 9, and you have to vote for 24th October. Please come out and vote for 24th October, and I hope that she will be elected. So Jazakallah khair, everybody watching the Community Talk, Toronto 360 every week, and I hope that this week program you like our both of the trustee candidate, one from the Markham, one from the Ward 5, and I hope that community is really, we are improving the engagement of the community on this councillor election this year 2022. Jazakallah khair. Arif Jahangiri will come back on next week with another topic in the Community Talk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.